Hello again, friends. Welcome, YouTube, Pub community, and those that may not be in the community. I was thinking after a good bowl this morning, or actually during the good bowl this morning, of Russ Ouellette's blend Fiddlesticks. And one of the things that crossed my mind is the term codger. It's something that many of us use tongue in cheek, saying conjure blends or things like that. Usually, for some, it's a negative meaning, meaning basically a bland or old-timey, referring to drugstore blends, things that aren't very popular and current. Well, this is actually a term that I've been thinking about for a long time, not just today. And I came to realize that in order to better enjoy what it is I'm not only smoking, but sometimes what I'm doing, is to embrace the inner codger. Now, some of you may think that's odd, some of you may think that's not for you. But think of it this way. Many of you, and oddly enough, even though I am only 38 years old, I found myself in this category. Many of you go in public and hear the air quotes kids listening to their new music and think, what happened to music? Because that's not how it's supposed to sound. What about, use for example, the composition of Queen, the arrangement that was put into much of their music was based on a theatrical sense, almost like an opera. Freddie Mercury had not only a musical talent and a vocal talent, of course, but he had a mind that could make things that have never been done before. Think Bohemian Rhapsody, and even if you go back even further, think Jimi Hendrix. Now, some of you may say, well, Jimi Hendrix wasn't a codger because a lot of his music may have been due to the various drugs during that time. However, who has done anything even remotely as risky as what he did. Making music out of a burning instrument is quite inventive. Now, with myself, I tend, of course, to like classical. That's a majority of what I was raised around, um, but also things from the 30s, 40s, like Louis Armstrong, uh, Glenn Miller, even the Nat King Trio that I found much later. I believe 2001 is when I found out that he actually did jazz. He had a jazz group. And this love of jazz and blues, B.B. King, Muddy Waters, things like that. Young people normally don't listen to that. And it surprises people that my musical taste goes to such things. I've been told majority of my life that I am older than what I appear to be. I remember being, I think it was 16 years old, and at the time I worked as a dishwasher for the restaurant Golden Corral. And after I had started working there, maybe I think it was 2 or 3 weeks in, the kitchen staff and some of the servers had a bet going to find out how old I was. One person, mind you, I was 16 years old. One person guessed I was 35 because of how I carried myself, because of how I spoke to people, and the music that they heard me listening to occasionally when I came to the restaurant, whatever was playing in my car at the time. So I think to better enjoy not only what's going on around us, but what we're doing, is to come to the fact that we may be codgers. For example, we've got Grip. Now, granted, he's a bit of an exception. Old Gribbly has his youth about him. Luckily, he's just recently realizing that he has wrinkles. He still has a majority of his hair, so there is still youth about him, but there's also the codger. He enjoys fly fishing, which is usually something a retired or elder white man or male enjoys making flies. We've of course got the artful codger. No one can argue that he is not a codger. He is definitely a codger. His old style of speaking, the music that he has playing, um, his tendency for storytelling. And I think in that same respect, a lot of us might think matches might be also fitting into that category. That uh, he does enjoy a good story. Many of us can sit there and listen to him tell a story, regardless of what it may be, just because of how he does it. Now, of course, codger is a male influence term. For women, they can be just the same, only it's not as flattering when you hear what their term is, harridan, which I'm not sure if I'm comfortable calling a woman a harridan, because in my mind something says that's a little too close to the word harlot, and that isn't good. But the only other option would be fishwife. Now, this is a term that was used. Well, actually, both terms are used in Pirates of the Caribbean. But fishwife was used as well, and it kind of makes a little more sense, but the woman doesn't have to be a wife, although she could be. I think the person that would match this would be somebody like Sue Dunhill, who definitely has a codger attitude. She does enjoy the older pipes, the older blends, and does her own thing. In the same respect, Amy Mack might also be a fishwife. Younger people tend to be more drawn towards cigarettes, but it is a codger or fishwife that is drawn to the relaxing, meditative, more thoughtful side of pipe smoking. So hopefully we can all embrace our inner codger and develop the inner codger to not be so withdrawn, not be so secluded from the public. If we can let others see how comfortable we are being a codger, maybe that will influence them to second guess all their modern ways. And in the end, we will be be better blended together. This is something of a lengthy rant, not rant, ramble. Not really a ramble, just a lengthy thought. Um, if you are still watching the video, I thank you. And from one codger to another, enjoy your plate. Until next time.